Both sides of the conversation, family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm Both Sides of the Conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both Sides of the Conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome everybody to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Sunday, so you know what that means. We're going to have another Sunday conversation. Today we're having a Black Panther party, Black History special. Today we got our legacy keepers here. They're going to do a phenomenal job with getting information to our community, giving us some background on some of the things that the Black Panther Party is doing. So we're excited about that for our Black History Month. With that being said, we're going to open up and just start off and say, man, what a phenomenal bowling event we had yesterday. We sold out the place. It was just a beautiful event. You know, this event was in honor of my mom and my cousin. As you all know, 5 months ago, I lost my mother. And it's been a challenging 5 months, but the way the community showed up to support, came out, all of the kids, what a phenomenal time. If you was at the event, to see our young people over these past 2 years dealing with COVID, dealing with the things that our young babies have been dealing with, not being able to socialize, being around their friends, just to see the community come together yesterday in love. This family event was very successful, and just want to say thank you to everybody who came out and supported, to all of our sponsors. This wouldn't have happened without you. So first we want to just say thank you to East Oakland Collective, Collective Impact, Mo Magic, the Human Rights Commission, the Brown Bombers, the Rebels, SF Black Wall Street, the OMI participant, the HCN, the African American Arts and Culture District. I mean, it was a number of sponsors and folks behind the scenes, the Fillmore Jazz community, a number of folks just, came through and supported. And it was a very, very eventful and special event yesterday. So just want to thank everybody who was able to participate. And I know a lot of people was frustrated. We had to do COVID testing, and it took a little time to get into the bowling alley. But, we have to do the responsible thing and make sure that people are safe. And it took a little took a little longer than we wanted to, but we was able to get our folks in and still enjoy. It was plenty of food, games, and gifts and raffles. It was very, very nice. So thank everybody who participated. To the folks who was yelling and complaining that they didn't get the register. We had to close out the registration at 300 because it was COVID. We only have so many people in there. But again, community, when these events are happening, you have to do your part, sign up early, and get out there so that you could be a part of the event. But it turned out great. And just want to say thank you to all our community leaders who came out, community organizations, the Baby Y. They was like a big part of this. And I want to thank Tassine and Gigi for their support and all the work they've been doing with us as well. So just excited, more stuff coming up, more things that we're going to be doing, because as we continue to grow, more things we'll be able to benefit and do for community. So with that being said, I'm going to get into our community announcements, some of the stuff that's going on, and then we're going to turn it over to our Black Panther Party today for their segment. But with that being said, today in Black history, on this day in 1927, the legendary actor Sidney Poitier was born. He is a Bahamian and American actor, film director, diplomat. In 1964, he was the first African-American actor, first Bahamian to win the Academy Award for Best Actor. He received 2 competitive global awards, and then the British Academy Film Award as well. He got the Grammy Award for Best Spoken Word Album. Poitier was the last major star from the golden age of from Hollywood cinema. He passed away on January 6, 2022. Rest in peace, good brother. A lot of great things when we talk about Black History Month. Not only we talk about the historic stuff, but just some of the things that historically people in our community have done that just moves our community forward. And he was definitely one of those pillars of our community. Going to miss him. But just wanted to put that out there on this day. Also, we have still been dealing with violence in our community. I don't know if you all have been seeing a news story, following us on our social media. There has been a number of shootings that's been taking place on freeways, on streets, in our public setting. And we got work to do with our young folks and some of the folks in our community who are dealing with issues and mental health. This week, tragic news, a woman that was having dinner in San Francisco at a window seat at a market restaurant was injured when a straight bullet went through and shattered the glass. The 85-year-old woman apparently injured. Some of her results from that gunfire, they said it was a juvenile incident that took place at the Safeway nearby. And some folks started fighting and shooting, and one of the bullets struck one of the residents of the city. Sad news to have to report. But again, the number of violence that has taken place in our community is very disturbing. And as we're trying to get through this Black History Month, as we try to get through this year, we're going to have to continue to work with each other and come up with plans on how we can engage our community and have these conversations about violence. And we talk about anger management and anxiety and some of the things that community folks are dealing with. We have to find a better way to resolve our anger than firing firearms. So very important stuff. We're going to continue to do our part throughout the year to have these conversations, continue to work with our young folks in the community to find out what do they need and how we can support them to eliminate some of this violence in our community. Also, San Francisco Mayor London Breed has captain plans to push downtown office workers to return in March. As you all know, the number of COVID numbers is dropping throughout the country, as well as here in the Bay Area. A number of city mayors and county folks are starting to bring folks back to work. So that means our highways are going to start getting busy again. People are coming back to the offices. I know they're doing it in Oakland as well. But there's a number of folks that's going to start coming back. I know it's been 2 years. People have been working remotely, and it's going to be a challenge, and people are going to have anxieties, and the freeways are going to be crowded. And we know we've been having a number of road rage incidents, and I just think people in the Bay Area need to start bracing themselves going to events, going to work, as the traffic is going to change again. People are going to be back on the road as more and more companies, more and more organizations are starting to bring back their staffing. A lot of the tech companies are bringing back their staffing. So our Bay Area highways are going to get busy. Our cities are going to get busy. And we just need everybody to have patience and have a little compassion, because it's going to get busy. We don't want people shooting and going crazy trying to get back to work. So, just be on the lookout for that as more and more organizations are bringing their staffing back. Also, for our community announcements that's going on, we got a couple more weeks for these support folks could do. You can still support both sides of the conversation through our Smile Amazon. If you haven't signed up, you can sign up for both sides of the conversation as one of your charity organizations. I know a lot of people like to shop on Amazon. Whatever you purchase, it won't be no extra cost to you. But if you sign up and use us as one of your charitable organizations, Amazon will definitely, no extra cost to you, make charitable donations to our organization to help build our organization. There's a lot of things that we need. I know these events you all see and some of the things that's happening on this platform, think, hey, these folks at both sides of the conversation have everything going on. We still need support. We still need volunteers. There's a lot of needs that we still need. So all of the support that we get from community, we thank you all. Also, our Giving Tuesday pledge is still going to the end of this month. If you would like to support us, if you're a philanthropist or any kind of organization that would like to support both sides of the conversation, check out our newsletter, check out our social media handles, and you still can support both sides of the conversation for our Giving Tuesday pledge. With that being said, our both sides of the conversation announcements for community, for some of the community events that's coming up. We have our San Francisco SF Black Wall Street in the African American Culture District is having the San Francisco Black Family Photo Day. That's happening February 27th at 1 p.m. It's going to be at the Mildred Howard Frame Shipyard along Ennis Street. That's 101 Horn Avenue. If you would like to come be a part of that Black photo, please go out there. And then after that, they're going to be headed down to Big H at the corner of 3rd and Gerald. They're going to have food, and they're going to have a Hombre block party right there. So they're going to continue to celebrate our Black heritage this month, and they'll be doing it after that event as well. So for more information, we'll be getting it out on our social media handles throughout the week. The San Francisco Department of Public Health Transgender pilot program is happening Monday, February 28th via Zoom. Tracy is who you want to reach out to get the Zoom link. Once we get the link, we'll share it out for all of our folks. If y'all want to be a part of that and learn and do that, Tracy is who you want to reach out for that. Also, the Lunar New Year celebration on Ocean Avenue is happening Saturday, February 26th, 2 to 3 p.m. at Unity Plaza, 102 Ocean Avenue. There will be complimentary lunches for about 400 guests. So the first 400 folks that show up will get lunches for that. And then join both sides of the conversation for the Safety Now support rally that is taking place from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the west side of the state capitol. This is an amazing, amazing event. This is very, very important event. We'll be in Sacramento for this. We'll be going live. We'll be getting some footage out there as we're going to continue to navigate for our survivors of violence. My sister Tanise over at Black Wall Street is heading this on with their team. This is a very, very important event. We'll be out there to support this event as well. Also on Sunday, March 22nd, we'll be having a special mental health day for our third Sunday conversation. And as you all know, the other Sundays of the month, there's 4 Sundays in the month. We'll be hosting the third Sunday of every month. Our sponsors will be taking over those other Sundays. So we still will be having our Sunday conversations. But some of the Sunday conversations will be sponsored events. So as those sponsors put out those topics and those things that they want to cover, we'll be getting that out to the community. So that's what's going on with us here at both sides of the conversation. Also, just want to let people know there's a lot of opportunities to partner and network with us. Reach out to us. We are looking forward to working with you all. Again, we're trying to build up our communities, especially in these times. There's a lot of crisis happening in our community, and we need our organizations to work together. We need our elected officials to work together. We got to stop all this infighting, working in silos, and make sure that we do the right thing to help impact our community because they need it right now. We are dealing with some emergencies and some crises in our community. So with that being said, the Black Panther Party is here. You know, it was founded in 1966 in Oakland by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, who met at Merritt College in Oakland. The Revolutionary Organization has been, around for a long time, doing a lot of amazing things to impact our community. A lot of their concepts, a lot of the things that they are put in play have not only pushed community, but elected and government folks to do the right thing. And they are here today, and they're going to give you guys a lot of background and information that you need to know. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start introducing our guest today that's going to be leading today's conversation. First, we're going to bring up Dr. Satoru Ned and the rest of the team. Brother Ned, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, John. We're happy to be here today. There is, as you noted, it's wonderful to see the community coming together this month. We want them to continue that feeling that there is hope, that there are people who care, and there are answers to issues. Again, the Black Panther Party Alumni Legacy Network, just so that everyone knows, there is no Black Panther Party, but the Legacy Network from 1982, what we say the continuation of the work. 40 years later, here we are. The network is composed of professionals and grassroots, I use the term community-based, people from all over the country and all over the world. And the concept is this is where the party would have gone. And right now, this year, we're engaged in so many things, and I'm just going to highlight a lot of some of them before I get into the presentation, because that's a whole nother issue right there. One thing we're doing is, that they were looking for a cure for sickle cell anemia. So we are going to partner up with the Children's Hospital again, since we created the foundation. And we want to push that issue. We really want to be able to get into the schools, into the community, every organization. I don't care who you are, what you're about, because it affects multiple populations in the area because of DNA. And right now, more Black males in California are dying of sickle cell anemia, where the actual foundation was founded through Dr. Bert Small by the Black Panther Party. Number two, we're working with a concept that is actually building what we call the Street of Dreams, a sports and educational complex patterned after the Oakland Community School started by the Black Panther Party. It will be located across from where Bobby Hutton Park is on Adeline Street in West Oakland. There's a lot to it. At one point, we will be giving a presentation on that because it's something that's going to affect the well-being of the community in total. We're also working on a revolutionary STEM curriculum. Yesterday, we had an opportunity to meet with coaches in a training session at Willie Key Center, making a documentary. Anthony Davis was there representing the people in Oakland, as well as there was a lot of other players involved in the whole overall project. We had an opportunity to tell and talk to people about coaching as a lifetime concept and how we applied it to the Black Panther Party. And then we had another event, what was bringing the people together. And I told John earlier, the bowling event, what we had, the fashion concept, and I'm celebrating my 26th wedding anniversary at the same time, but it was beautiful. The feeling of the community we're seeing. So there is a renaissance happening, and it's up to us to continue. I'm not going to go any further. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Craig, that first video in a moment, that's the one we're going to play. And I think
you want to bring up Dr. Steve to introduce them first and then go to it, or you want to go straight into it?
After I was done, I thought that normally how we do our class is after I finished in that introduction of Professor Steve McCutcheon. But if you want to introduce Steve, let's do it. Okay. Go ahead. I didn't know the procedure that you guys had at the time.
That's okay.
I was just going to get started. So this particular aspect, I'm going to start off with this little video from Visit Oakland, who we always had a great relationship with. And it's talking about presently what some of the things that were happening this year in the city of Oakland concerning the celebration of Black history.
It is Black History Month, and Visit Oakland is celebrating the city's Black history with locals and visitors alike. There is something for everyone. Joining me now, Peter Gammas, the president and CEO of Visit Oakland. Peter, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with ways people can learn about Black history and culture in Oakland.
There's no other place to be during Black History Month but Oakland. We have so much to offer. We have events, performances, exhibits, and really highlighting our Black-owned businesses in Oakland. It's a great place to celebrate. If you're a music lover, there's a lot of things going on. We have West Coast legends of hip hop, Warren G, Too Short, Digital Underground, DJ Quirk on February 25th. And if you're headed to the Paramount, you can't stop, but you want to stop and go see Smokey Robinson. He's performing live on February 26th. Are for those music lovers that want to experience Oakland this month.
And you also have a couple of other events as well. I know you have a Black History Walking Tour. Tell us about that.
Well, we have a Black History Walking Tour. It's the Black Liberation Walking Tour, which was named as one of the best Black History tours in the United States by Condé Nast Traveler. And the Black Panther Party Alumni Legacy Oakland Tour is also hosted by original Black Panther alumni.
And there are also options for art lovers. Can you tell us about those as well?
Yes, for art lovers, we can't go wrong with the Oakland Museum of California, OMCA. It's showcasing Mothership Voyage to Afrofuturism, where you can experience the work of jazz musicians and filmmakers and see so many fun and interactive exhibits that will be on display through the end of February.
And the Black Joy Parade is also coming up. That's February 27th. What can people expect there?
Well, this is going to be one of my favorite events for the entire month, although I love what's going on all over Oakland. But that February 27th is the 5th annual Black Joy Parade. It takes place, it's free, family-friendly parade and festivals to celebrate the Black experience of past, present, and future. Black Joy Parade is also arranged for people that want to spend the night. You know, as Visit Oakland, we encourage you to come and also spend the night in Oakland. And we have special hotel rates available for those that want to experience the parade, but might want to enjoy the culinary wonders that we have here as well. So parade and dinner might be the what you might have as your choice.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that culinary aspect. So many Black-owned food and drink businesses there. Just talk about that food and drink scene there in Oakland.
Well, if you had a wider lens on me, you'll see that I really love food here in Oakland. And we have 40 Black-owned food and drink businesses here in Oakland. Some of my favorites are, you know, Home of Chicken and Waffles here at Jack London Square. There's Horn Barbecue. And for cocktails, my favorite is Sobre Mesa.
And there are also a lot of Black-owned shops and boutiques around town too.
Absolutely. So if you're a fashion lover, make sure to stop at McMullen's Boutique and Taylor J Collection and get some of your branded Oakland attire.
And I know we're talking about Black History Month, but there are so many things that Oakland offers throughout the year. Just how does it feel to be able to provide so much culture here in the Bay Area?
I mean, that's what really sets us aside from so many other Bay Area cities, is our culture, is our diversity, and it's year-round. I encourage everyone not only to enjoy Oakland during Black History Month, but come and experience us throughout the entire year. And as our weather is getting better, as I tell everybody, it's only in Oakland where you can kayak in Jack London Square or go hiking in the Redwoods within 20 minutes of your own city limit.
So much to see and do. Peter, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
I hope to see you.
Oh.
All right. Thank you so much, Craig, for showing that. I wanted to start there to give people an idea of what was going on, some of the things that are happening, but how did it get there? Did these things just pop out of the sky? So for a period of time, one of our educational initiatives, besides some of the other things in STEM and financial literacy, one of the other concepts is our people and our children don't even know the history of the city where they live. And that includes San Francisco, much less Oakland or Vallejo, anywhere. What is my story? What is the story of the Black community, and how do we fit in so we understand where we came from and where we need to go from here? So I'm going to start off with the story of Black Oakland's story. Early years, African Americans have been a part of Oakland throughout most of its 167-year history, contributing to its rise from mid-19th century fledgling railroad towns to the major West Coast port city thriving tech hub and trendy tourist attractions it is today. In 1869, 13 years after its incorporation as a town, Oakland became the western terminus for the Transcontinental Railroad, a development that led to the steady arrival of Black people who came from work as porters, who came to work as maids, cooks, red caps, and waiters on the railroads, and as employees in the growing hospitality industry. Black people also operated businesses such as restaurants, livery stables. They had horses back then too. Grocery stores, which we have a lack of. The last one we had just closed in West Oakland. It opened a few years ago. And furniture stores. By 1900, the Black population of Oakland, which was around 14 out of 1,500 people at the town's inception in 1852, had grown to 1,026 out of 66,960 people. The community was still just a tiny fraction of the overwhelming white city, but had developed an impressive network of cultural and economic institutions such as schools, funeral homes, real estate firms, recreational centers, and music venues. If you know the story of West Oakland, the Harlem of the West, that's another area that could take a whole section just talking about that. Oakland is a place where laws like in 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act, something our Asian brothers and sisters could learn to know. The first law to prevent a specific ethnic group from immigrating to the United States. In other words, don't even think about coming here, turn your boat around, we don't want you. And it was the first tested, and where in 1972, William Parker, a known Ku Klux Klan member, was elected to the Oakland City Council. 1927. So Oakland and the Bay Area wasn't this hub or this center for social change and forward thinking and economic creation in oppressed and Black communities. In Oakland, as in cities across the nation, people of color were impacted by the 1940s, 1950s federal housing redlining policy, which excluded communities of color from the wealthy building opportunity of home ownership. Even if you had money and you were looking at buying in another area, they would steer you back to buying in the community that you live in rather than having the freedom of choice to move somewhere else. And also they would redline so that banks weren't able to be able to loan. So that was a what we call a racist discriminatory housing concept that existed in that period of time to stop Black people from buying property, to also increase their own wealth that they could create generational wealth from. Their neighborhoods were abandoned to urban decay after white flight to the suburbs. I saw it live myself when I went back to New York as I was a Lumpin singing member of the singing group Lumpin of the Black Panther Party with Afeni Shakur, and we looked at the devastation of what had taken place. Highway 17, now 1880 or Nimitz Freeway, was built throughout the heart of the Black community here in Oakland, disrupting community cohesion and economic viability for cutting it off from downtown. Many homes and businesses were destroyed to build the Cypress Viaduct and the rest of the Nimitz Freeway. Future urban renewal caused the destruction of the area around Market and 7th Street to make way for the Acorn high-rise apartments. This urban renewal thrust in West Oakland continued into the 1960s with the construction of BART and the main post office building at 1675 7th Street. Many African Americans and Latino families were displaced from West Oakland during this period. African Americans or Black people relocated to East Oakland, especially the Elmhurst district and surrounding areas. Latinos moved, of course, as we well know, into the Fruitvale district. The people of Oakland pushed back, though. Oakland was at the center of a general strike during the first week of December 1946. As a matter of fact, as part of a walking tour that we did on Sundays that we conduct in Latham Square, 16th and Broadway, they have these unbelievable historical documents that are encased. And you actually see the floats, you see the street just jam-packed with thousands of people. And also you see the involvement of the Black community. And one float says, take the power out of the tower. The people who were not giving them fair wages. And of course, the strike in terms of what was happening. But they were only one of 6 cities across the nation. So Oakland has a long history of resistance. One of 6 cities across the country that experienced such a strike after World War II and marked the beginning of the labor movement. Starting part of the labor movement, the beginning was right here in the East Bay in Oakland. In the 1960s, when massive demonstrations and civil unrest resulted in the Civil Rights Act, which made it a federal crime to discriminate against someone based on their race, color, sex, religion, or national origin in employment and housing. Oakland, again, was at the center of change. And of course, we realize no matter what is past, it's just words on a page. It's just something that is enshrined in a law that no longer applies, that's never enforced. The only laws that are enforced are laws of oppression, the laws of degradation, the laws of denial. The laws are not allowing us to prosper as a people, but the laws that are supposed to protect us that are on the books don't happen. This is indicative of even back then. So even today, with the non-existence of a George Floyd so-called civil rights bill, with the rollback of voters' rights, and also the denial of the lie that community colleges would be free and these loans for our people are not going to be forgiven. The second Great Migration, the largest influx of Black people into Oakland, came during the second Great Migration. That was between 1940 and 1970. So we're looking at the period of time, 1940 in particular, right after World War II. That's when the Great Migration began, and it continued up to 1970. An estimated 5 million Blacks fled the constraints of Jim Crow. It's not that you can escape Jim Crow because it follows us everywhere we go. It's actually like a shadow on us. So Jim Crow in the South is the same as Jim Crow in the North, East, and West. Jim Crow, South to seek better. Many people fled the constraints of Jim Crow to seek better opportunities in the Northwest, the Northeast, and of course, the Western states. Tens of thousands of these migrants came to Oakland, drawn by the promise of plentiful jobs in a city at the center of the region's rapidly expanding wartime economy, bolstered by the infusion of federal defense sector spending for shipbuilding and the construction of the Oakland Army Base and the Naval Supply Center. Now, y'all remember this was also true for Oakland as well as San Francisco, the migration. There were a lot of jobs in the shipyards, the Oakland Army Base, and also in Oakland, we had the factories, the Sunshine Biscuit Factory, Granny Goose Factory. So these factories were located in our communities. So therefore, communities were able to rise in their income, buy homes, Sobrani Park, Brookfield Village area, but they didn't have to go far from work. So we see what has happened since that period of time. Since that, all these things have been stripped out of the community. That was the first wave of job security to go. A wartime labor shortage coupled with a directive by Franklin D. Roosevelt ordering federal contractors to integrate their workforce. It wasn't an easy thing. What is said, as you well know, is not easily done. This prompted Blacks to flood into the cities to take jobs on the railroads, shipyards, ports, the docks, still present at the Port of Oakland, and military supply centers that were an integral part of the World War II effort, which was from 1941 to 1945. The availability of plentiful and relatively lucrative jobs engendered a new Bay Area Black middle class. This was on both sides of the Bay, many of whom settled in West Oakland, where most of the maritime jobs were centered at the Port of Oakland, and where several housing projects had been constructed. The spike in new Black residents with disposable incomes. that word disposable means that, why are you buying it? Because I can. Oh, you can. Yes, I'm not just surviving. I can now start doing some other things because I can, and I have a decent income. That's what a disposable income is. That's the kind of money people take and gamble. If they lose it, they're not fretting because it was a rent money. So disposable income led to the development of West Oakland's historic 7th Street corridor, Harlem of the East. Business-wise, entertainment-wise, legendary. And a lot of people don't know that history. Again, you could teach a whole historical lesson just on 7th Street, that whole corridor. The 7th Street corridor, an interpiece of a prize of Black commerce and culture in the 1940s that included a bustling commercial district lined with Black-owned businesses and a vibrant nightlife scene that drew national attention musicians like B.B. King, Sarah Vaughan, and helped foster the city's legendary jazz scene. And the birth of the West Coast Blues was in Oakland, California. Post-war expansion. After the war, after 1945, the shipbuilding and automobile industries went into decline. That was another thing. We had the Ford factory over years up through the 60s was open, where we had several thousand Black and brown people had decent, good jobs working for the General Motors automotive industry. They went into decline, leading to layoffs and racially charged economic competition. The less jobs there are, the less you're going to have an opportunity of getting one or keeping the one you have. Despite the immediate post-war slump, the Black population in Oakland continued to grow and thrive into the following decades, continuing to work on the railroads, continuing to work on the docks, as well as in the robust manufacturing sector and the automobile sector, which became such a major part of the city's economy. A lot of people didn't know that a lot of the economy was supported by the auto industry. Oh, here we go again. It was like a second Detroit. First of all, you had the Harlem effect, the Harlem East. Now you had the Detroit automotive right here in Oakland. It became known as the Detroit of the West. And eventually doctors, lawyers, and other skilled blue-collar workers became the face of the city's Black middle class. The years of the Second Great Migration precipitated rapid growth in the Black community population. By 1975, 35%, by 1970, 35% of Oakland's population was Black, up from 3% in 1940. The expansion of the city's Black population coincided with the Civil Rights era. Oakland took center stage in the Pan-African movement, spreading across the nation when in 1966, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale founded a Black Panther movement for self-defense in response to the ongoing brutality inflicted by the disproportionately white police force on the city's Black residents, who made up a third of the city's population. The Black Panther Party and its members at that time came to the fact and was safeguarding the people with the patrols, took the cause to California state legislature against the Mulford Act and our right again to actually defend ourselves. And looks like now the question is being asked all over the country. And we're seeing the momentum gain with the shooting of the 22-year-old who, if anybody came into my home and I had a legal right to have a weapon in my home like white people do, you kick in the door. We always cited the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which was when in the era of prohibition. Al Capone orchestrated a strike on his rivals, and they caught most of them in a meeting, and police officers parading. They weren't police officers. They had everything, the badges, ID. When they came in there, they just killed them all. So we always cite that example, the St. Valentine's Day massacre. So we're seeing that again happen. Do we have the right to defend ourselves in any situation? And will they be exonerated and continue to do what they do? So that again is coming up. So the ascend of the Black Panthers and the Black Panther Party and the artists inspired by the rise of Black nationalism in the U.S. and the anti-colonial African independence uprisings, all these things in the 1960s featured the work of visual artists, writers, poets, musicians, and dancers that were colorful by the designs and hairstyles and fashions and themes and rhythms. And of course, this was the beginning aspect of identity of myself. I'm Black and I'm proud. I look good. So if I have that affinity to I am a human being, just maybe I can start looking at why we're in the situation we're in today, the rising of the consciousness. And culture centers and galleries and art organizations sprang up across Oakland and the East Bay. Civil rights reforms and the post-war economics of the 1960s boasted educational and employment opportunities for middle-class Blacks in Oakland and in the U.S. at large. But the Black underclass in Oakland still suffered under the yoke of discrimination, entrenched poverty, housing segregation, problems deepened throughout the succeeding decades by various developing projects which have eroded Oakland's Black neighborhoods. By the 1970s, the euphoric aura generated by the Black Panthers' electrifying message of Black self-sufficiency and solidarity had given way to the scourge of heroin, which was done on purpose, destabilizing families and communities and bringing about a surge of serious violence and gang warfare. But I want to clarify that when we say gang warfare, Oakland has always been sets. There was never Bloods or Crips or any other organized gang. Oakland has always had neighborhoods, and that is documented not only by the police department, but by the FBI. So when we use that term, even we don't say gangs, we always say street families. They might not have the knowledge of life in the right way, but that's what they are, depending upon each other for misinformation. So later, we'll put this into perspective, the 1-2 punch. I call it a left hook with heroin, and then in the 80s, a right cross with cocaine, crack cocaine. It was a direct attempt to destroy everything, not only the work of the Black Panther Party, which was stated by the government, but also to totally destabilize the Black community. From 1860 up until the 1960s, the Black family was one of the most solid family units in America. That's why you may hear these stories you haven't experienced of families that were together from block to block, uncles and aunts. We didn't send our children to the system if something happened to see it. They would go with a family member. So the destabilization began to take place. And this is the things that they did. So everything has a purpose and a reason, and nothing is isolated. And you see, hopefully, the chain of events, which as we get into the other part of the presentation, looking at those critical questions that Professor Steve McCutcheon is going to break forth, looking at the not common denominator of then and now, and how has it progressed or has it gotten worse? So these destructive consequences, and Ronald Reagan was part of this thrust, mingled tragically with the supply side of economic policies of Ronald Reagan during those years. As the crack epidemics started to take hold in the early 1980s, Black people in Oakland outnumbered whites for the first time in Oakland's history, with Blacks making up 47% of the population. But we always say, as Barbara Lee pointed out, they usually in the census leave out 10 to 15% of the Black population. And usually it's young Black males. This was proven before 2010. That was talked about. So you add another 10, 15%. So yes, the majority of Oakland was Black. The population of whites constituted 39%. By 2000, the Black portion, and this is again the people who are in houses that they count, not the people on the streets, not the people who live in tent communities or live in RVs or actually living with other people who don't take the census. But according to door-to-door household census, by 2000, the Black portion of the population had dropped to 35%. And by 2010, the city's African-American population fell below the white population for the first time since 1970. Of the city's total population, 28% is Black, 35% was white, with non-Hispanics making up 26%, and Latinos make up 25% of the total. By 2018, no longer the single largest ethnic group, make up 24%, non-Latinos 27%, and Latinos make up 27%. Asians, whose numbers have steadily increased since 1960, are 16% of the population. If the current trends continue, based on average loss of about 6 percentage points per year since 2000, the African-American population in Oakland could shrink to 18% of the total by 2030 and to a mere 11% by 2040. Oakland's demographics, we call this from cash out to push out. Forced exit. Oakland's demographics, Black exodus, an increase in the number of whites, Asians, and Latino residents mirror those occurring all over the region in Berkeley, Richmond, and San Francisco, the latter which saw a dramatic 25% decline in its Black population from 2000 to 2010. The outmigration of African Americans are two primary impetuses. The first occurred in the 1990s to the 2000s, when most middle-class Blacks started moving out to the suburbs and to escape crime, as they call it, etc. And in the Bay Area market that was jolted by .com. Remember, the .com was the first wave of gentrification that began. So we got to keep this in historically perspective when that process began. The second dynamic intensifying over the past decade with the advent of Silicon Valley, technology coming in, as we well know. And of course, no one other than tech people or other business people could pay the skyrocketing costs, which of course in this region they are and continue to take advantage of. But also right now there's a quagmire. There's vacancies in Oakland. There's vacancies all over. And the reason is because many of these companies are not bringing their people back. They're announcing most of them can work remotely. You go on BART. BART is not crowded. They're not going back like they said they were. They're staying away. You can go to San Francisco early in the morning. So we're seeing a whole new dynamic. So that's another presentation about how we can look at housing. And we're going to be diving into some of that with Professor Steve. There's some amazing things that we're going to bring forward for thought-provoking thoughts, and also look at how can we change these concepts. So the number of evictions has soared. The landlords are using the Ellis Act. That means that, they say, oh, we want to move you out because we want to make improvements. And once they move you out, they're not moving you back in. So that's another tactic to evade rent control. A double-digit increase in homelessness. It's really gotten out of hand to the point where many of the residents being pushed out have fled the state altogether, resulting in a loss of 22, these are the ones they count, remember that, 22,000 Black people between 2000 and 2014 have left the city of Oakland, not because they wanted to. It's called forced migration. You have no choice because you can't live here, can't afford it. So these kinds of things that we see happening in terms of what is going on in the city at this point, I could go on. I mean, there's so much information that I had, but I want to take this time because we have another part of the presentation. I want to take this time just to hope that, and when we get to the question and answer period. I hope that we have some comments based upon this. This is the things that we need to know to be aware of. And these are the conditions that we exist in concerning what is going on in our area. The rich history of resistance, the rich history of prosperity and economic gain. So this is not, we're trying to achieve something that we've never seen. We are trying to get back what was taken from us, and that they're not going to get back unless we are so inclined to create the method to get it back ourselves. So very quickly, I'm going to go and talk about very quickly 6 Black people who made notable contributions to technology. Part of our concept is technology. And unless our children, I mean, we haven't done nothing in technology other than make records and then do engineering. But here we're going to talk about people that look like them, that will show them that we were the creators in every area. Even to this very day, we have made significant contributions to technology. So here we go. 6 people who made notable contributions to technology. I'm not going to be long with this so that we can move forward. And maybe at some point we'll have the question and answer period. Patricia Airbath. Actually, it's amazing because most people say, who was Patricia Airbath? You know, I heard of Martin Luther King, and that's about all you hear of. You don't really know the people, the real waymakers, the real heroes and sheroes who did things that they said that was impossible. Patricia Airbath was born on November 4th, 1942, in New York City, a Harlem neighborhood, to Rupert Bath, the first Black motorman in the New York City subway system, and Gladys Bath, a housewife and domestic worker who used her salary to save money for her children's education. Bath was encouraged by her family. The family. Remember I told you during that period, the strength of the Black family? She was encouraged by her family to pursue academic interests. Her father, a former merchant marine and an occasional newspaper columnist, taught Bath about the wonders of travel and the value of exploring new cultures. Her mother piqued the young girl's interest in science by buying her a chemistry set. Patricia Airbath was the first African American to complete a residency in ophthalmology in 1973. 2 years later, she became the first female faculty member in the Department of Ophthalmology at UCLA's Jules Stein Eye Institute. In 1976, Bath co-founded the American Institute of the Preventive of Blindness, which established that eyesight is a basic human right. She said everybody should have the right to see. In 1986, Bath invented the laser recoil probe, improving treatment for cataract patients. Wow. So now when you go to your doctor, our doctor, hey, did you know that a black woman created laser surgery? A black woman, we were talking recently. Fortunately, our sister has gone home to the ancestors, and she passed in 2019. In 1988, she became the first African-American female doctor to receive a medical patent. And Craig, would you mind pulling up those pictures at this point in time so that we can show, everybody can relate this information and put the face with the information that I'm actually putting forth at this time. Her first patents became the first African-American female doctor.
Hold on, one second. He haven't got it up yet.
Oh, he hasn't got it up yet? Okay.
Sorry, just pulling it up now.
Okay, not a problem.
Can we see it yet?
Nope, it's not shared yet. You got to click all the way through to make sure it's shared.
Okay.
Looks like we're having a problem getting it back up, huh?
Yes, the slides I'm having an issue with. Let me see here.
All right, there we go.
All right. Okay. That is. Let's look at this. Can you make it any larger? Is it possible?
Excuse me.
I think it's full screen on our end.
Okay, that's okay. This is someone. This is Jan E. Messer. You know that they were on a Black Heritage stamp, and they actually created what we call the shoe lasting machine, so that you can actually manufacture shoes that were inexpensive. And you notice that most of our children, as adults, have no idea. It only goes as far as Madam C.J. Walker and the hot comb, other than as far as invention of George Washington Carver, which was amazing what he did. But I wanted to highlight people who created things concerning technology. So can you pull up that picture of Patricia Airbath for me? There she is. So here's a woman, looks like she could be anybody's mother, wife, auntie, or what have you. But her astounding ability to pursue what she had to pursue and to be an example for everyone. And yes, she was a family woman at the same time. She, her patents became the first, she was the first African-American female to patent a medical invention. She's also, a patent was a method for removing cataract lenses using laser devices. She had also received 5 separate patents for her invention. So laser apparatus for surgery, another laser apparatus. This invention provided a way to remove cataracts by making a micro incision and applying radiation, the procedures that any eye doctor is using today. Pulsed ultrasound method for fragmenting the things that need to be removed from the eye. This invention used ultrasonic energy to remove cataracts. So all these concepts, amazing that this woman was part of, which was part of the elite technology in the medical field. But we have some other examples of people in the science field, but I just wanted to bring these forward so people can see, my God, if our children were able to have this in school, we're not concerned about critical race theory. Teach them who they are by showing the unbelievable things that we contributed and continue to do in the society. Yes, you can learn math. Yes, you can be the person who creates the next big thing in technology. So let's go. Can you pull up George Crothers, which is the next picture? There we go. George Crothers. Who was George Crothers? If you went to any Black history class and say, we're going to talk about the Black history person called George Crothers, and most people look at you and say, who the heck is George Crothers? Well, George was a scientist. He built his first telescope. He was 10 years old. He earned his PhD in aeronautical and astronautical engineering at the University of Illinois in 1964, and began working at the U.S. Naval and began working at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. His telescope, an image converter, was used to identify molecular hydrogen in space, and his ultraviolet camera spectrograph was used by Apollo 16 during the flight to the moon. I'm sorry, I'm kind of laughing because if you even put this fact out to America, you want to start a whole new controversy. Talking about they would try to deny that we had people in our community that have done these astounding things. Let me talk about the early life of George Carruthers. He was born on October 1st, 1939 in Cincinnati, Ohio, the eldest of George's and Sophia Carruthers' 4 children. George was a civil engineer with the U.S. Army Corps, senior, his father, and encouraged his sons to early interest in science. So by the age of 10, the young Carruthers had constructed his own telescope with cardboard tubing and mail order lenses, that he bought with money he earned as a delivery boy. Carruthers' father died when the boy was only 12. So here's the father taken out of the picture. But obviously he equipped his son with the knowledge to go forward. After his death, the family moved to Chicago, where Sophia went to work for the U.S. Postal Service. Despite the emotional setback, Carruthers continued pursuing science. As one of only a handful of African Americans or Black people competing in Chicago's high school science fairs, he won 3 awards, including first prize for a telescope that he had designed and built. On November 11th, 1969, Carruthers was awarded a patent for his image converter for detecting electromagnetic radiation, especially in short wavelengths. During a 1970 rocket flight, Carruthers' UV telescopes and image converter provided the first proof of the existence of molecular hydrogen in interstellar space. Carruthers' invention was used in April 21st, 1972, during the first lunar walk of Apollo 16 mission. For the first time, scientists in general were able to examine the Earth's atmosphere for concentrated pollutants, and you see UV images of more than 550 stars, nebulas, and galaxies. Carruthers, Brother Carruthers, was awarded NASA's Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal for his work on the project. But you would have never heard of him if we don't do our own research. Next, Sandra K Johnson. This was another amazing sister. She also just recently passed. She was born June 15, 1947, and she passed, going home to the ancestors, June 16th. Juneteenth Day, 2021, last year. Sandra K Johnson was the founder and CEO of CTO Global Mobile Finance, a fintech startup company based in research in North Carolina called Triangle Park. She was also the founder of CKJ Visioneering Technology Consulting Company. In addition, she was the visiting scholar at North Carolina A&T State University and on the board of directors, a hidden figure. That's what she was, a hidden figure. She is formerly the Chief of Technology Officer, IBM Central, East and West Africa, and was based in Nairobi, Kenya. Her previous IBM assignments included working as business development executive in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, the Chief Technology Officer of the Global Small and Medium Business for IBM, and she is managing the Links Performance WebShare database development. And she was also a member of the IBM Academy of Technology, which consisted of the top 1% of IBM's over 250,000 technical professionals. She was recognized as one of the top 100 most important Black women, or Black period, in technology. So we should salute her as we did the others. When I first started doing this research on that, it just really wowed me. And this is what our children and our people need to know, that we have a place on the leading edge in the buzzword of today, which is technology. And would you pull up Garrett Morris? I think his is that's a Gladys. There we go. He was an interesting character. 1877 to 1963. Who was Garrett Morrison with only an elementary school education? Garrett Morgan began a career as a sewing machine mechanic. He went on to patent several inventions, including an improvement sewing machine, traffic signal, and hair straightening product, and a respiratory device that would later provide the blueprint for World War I gas masks. The inventor died on July 27th, 1963. Born in Paris, Kentucky, never heard of it. He was one of 7 of 11 children. When Morgan was in his mid-teens, he moved to Cincinnati to look for work and found a handyman to a wealthy landowner. Although he only completed elementary school, keep that in perspective, although he only completed elementary school education, he was able to pay for a lesson for a private tutor. So when he began working in the sewing machine factory, it captured his imagination and determined his future. So he obtained a patent for an improved sewing machine and opened up his own repair business. In 1914, he patented a breathing device or safety hood, providing his wearers with a safe breathing experience in the presence of smoke, gas, and other pollutants. He was the first Black man in Cleveland to own a car. Morgan worked on his mechanical skills and developed a friction drive clutch. Morgan quickly acquired patents. Then in 1923, again, he created a new kind of traffic signal. I'll say that again. In 1923, he created a new type of traffic signal, one with a warning light to alert drivers that they would need to stop after witnessing a carriage accident, and how it created problems in the intersection because the lighting system was inefficient. Morgan quickly acquired patents for his traffic signal, and actually it was read to the modern version of what we call the modern three-way traffic light in the United States, Britain, and Canada. And last but not least is Gladys West. Gladys Mae West. I love Gladys. She looks like you know the mother, the grandmother, the mother, the church mother. You look at her and never think that all the astounding things that she's done. But here we go. Gladys Mae Brown was born in rural Virginia, where parents owned a small farm in an area populated mostly by sharecroppers. Growing up, when not in school, she spent much of her time helping to harvest crops on the family farm, an occupation she knew many of her peers would continue into adulthood. So she had already recognized the fact that from generation to generation, our people have been nothing but sharecroppers, which is you never, ever get out of debt, and you never own the property. So automatically her aspirations were a lot more. In her community, the only clear option for your young Black girl's future were continuing to farm or working at a tobacco processing plant. But at school, her talent for learning offered another path. As valedictorian of her high school graduating class, Gladys received a full scholarship to Virginia State College, now Virginia State University, the historically Black college, where she earned a degree in mathematics in 1952. She later returned for a master's degree in the subject, graduated in 1955 after spending time teaching math in racially segregated Virginia schools and after applying for a series of jobs in Virginia's segregated state government that were instead awarded to white men. Now I'm going to say this. This sister was on point. We're talking 1955. And historically, if you know that period, this was before Martin Luther King, 1965. This was a bold sister to make those moves in the South at the time when they would hang you from the highest tree at the drop of a dime. In 1956, Gladys was hired as a mathematician by the U.S. Naval Proving Ground, a weapons laboratory in Dahlgren, Virginia, as only their fourth Black employee. There she met Ira West, another Black mathematician. On the base, the couple married in 1957. And they had 3 children, and at Dahlgren, Gladys West was admired for her ability to solve complex mathematical equations by hand. Now, remember, this was before the advent, if you saw the movie Hidden Figures in the 60s, before IBM and all the computing entities were there. Here is a young Black woman who was taught by Black teachers who learned doing this complex math by hand, complex mathematical equations by hand, because there were no machines, no computers, no laptops, no tablets. None of that existed at the time. And this is, of course, they were called computers. That's what she was. She was called a computer. And that's what they did at that point in time. She eventually transitioned from solving these equations herself to programming computers to do it for her. One of her first major projects was working on the Naval Ordnance Research Calculator, an award-winning program designed via 100 hours of computer calculations, which often had to be double-checked for errors by hand to determine the movements of Pluto in relationship to Neptune. The more I read about her and the others, it's just mind-boggling at the intellect and intelligence that is hidden not only in her, but is present in all of us, and in particular, our children. In 1978, West was named project manager of CSAT, an experimental U.S. ocean surveillance satellite, designed to provide data on a wide array of oceanographic computations, conditions, and features, including wave height, water temperature, currents, wind, icebergs, and coastal characteristics. It was the first project to demonstrate that satellites could be used to observe useful oceanographic data. One of West's works on Seagrant came Geostat, a satellite program to create computer models of Earth's surface by teaching a computer to account for gravity, tides, and other forces that act on Earth's surface. West and her team created a program that could precisely calculate the orbit of satellites. These calculations made it possible to determine a model for the exact shape of the Earth called a geode. Yes, Black people. It is this model and later updates that allowed the GPS system to make accurate calculations of any place on Earth. During her career on the naval base, West earned another master's degree. Never stopped learning, always advancing, always evolving. This time in public administration from the University of Oklahoma. Though she retired from the base in 1998 at age 68, she continued her education. After recovering from a stroke, she received a PhD in public administration and policy affairs from Virginia Polytechnic Institute in 2000. In 2000, at the age of 70. Like NASA mathematicians Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, West is often called one of history's hidden figures. Individuals, often Black women, whose insightful contributions to science went unrecognized in their time because of their race or gender. In 2018, West was formally recognized for her contributions to the development of GPS by the Virginia General Assembly. That same year, she was also inducted into the Air Force Space and Mission Pioneers Hall of Fame and named one of the British Broadcasting Corporation's 100 Women of 2018, a list designed or designated to honor inspiring women worldwide. Such is my part of this presentation. I hope that it has been informative as we go into the other part with Professor Steve McCutcheon. I will turn this back over to John, our host. But I hope this information actually inspires you to dig deeper into some of these people, to dig deeper into the history of Oakland as we go forward. And then we'll look at, as we go forward, we'll examine, are some of these conditions here today? And does the struggle continue? Have we solved every problem? So, John, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to you so you can bring on Professor Steve.
All right, man. All I can say, that was very informative, great information. I learned something new about some of these phenomenal gems of our community. And I think, a part of this historic Black History Month is bringing this awareness and education to our young folks in the community. So I really appreciate you all efforts putting this together. I got to connect you with Dr. Carolyn Scott, one of the commissioners over here. She's been putting together a brief informational book guide of all the Black eventers over the time in this country. And I think that's just something that our young folks need to know about and learn about, because so many times our young folks feel like there's nobody Black doing it. I'm like, hey, you started it. You got people who started it. So, I mean, this is great information. Looking forward to getting that out to community. But with that being said, community, we're going to move on to the next presenter. We're going to bring on Dr. Steve McCutcheon, and he's going to talk about some very, very important stuff. And I'm looking forward for this presentation as well. Dr. Steve, it's on you. You got to unmute yourself.
Is she on there? We good to go.
There you go. We can hear you now.
All right, we're good to go. Hey, thanks, John. Hey, Saturo. All right, we know how we roll.
Yeah.
You know how we roll with the presentations. Hey, off the hook. Hey, there you go, putting out that historical information in context. And before I move on, let me introduce to the audience our honorable sister Catherine Campbell, a member of our Black Panther Party Alumni Legacy Network.
Yes.
Okay, look here. Hello and welcome, my brothers and sisters, and to all of the viewing audience. I'm Professor Steve McCutcheon, an original member of the Black Panther Party. My roots were in the Baltimore chapter of the Black Panther Party, and in 1977, I arrived in Oakland, along with many other comrades, to engage in a process we called the Long March. At this point in time in California, for the season, as John Seal told me before I left Baltimore, and that's the longest season that I know of, and I'm still here. That was 50 years ago. Today, as curriculum and lessons coordinator with the Black Panther Party Alumni Legacy Network, I have breaking news for everyone. It has been recently released to the public that the critical issues that Black people in particular and the minority population of America in general will face in 2022 are the same issues with new illusions that the Black Panther Party addressed in our 1972 revised 10-point program and platform. Now, the ideology of American policymakers and the architects of America think have only created images and fixtures of progress, where in fact only the language and the facades have changed and not the qualitative growth and empowerment of the masses of Black and poor people here in America. And again, this is 2022. At our 50th reunion, we asked the question, where do we go from here? In order to look at that and what our Black Panther Party Alumni Legacy Network has done, first we have to revisit the Black Panther Party 10-point program and hear the facts. Then we have to examine and discuss what is neither illusion or nightmare, but the objective reality. And that's only due to the oppressive order of ideas and practices and the practitioners who have continued to sanction and spread the ideas of disunity among Black people, the misinformation about the Black Panther Party, and about the efforts and productivity of black people through the chronicled history of our existence here in North America. So now at this point, let me engage you in the objective reality. Believe it or not. Dr. Ned talked about the history of the Oakland community, that vibrant history, the participation and interaction, the wanting to fulfill those needs for survival and to move to the levels where black and poor people could survive here in the Oakland terrain and in the areas from which we had come from previously during our historical migrations. So when we go back to the historical fact, then let's look at one of the things that in 2022 are going to impact us this year and for years coming in terms of the community, of the Black community. Years ago, the Black community, the idea of the Black community was as a homogeneous group of people, mostly Black neighborhoods, tracts of Blacks living together in apartments or in houses. But we were a collective, a population of people by race, by origin. We were a group of people who moved together, worked together, lived among each other, such as the old communities that built upon the issues and the ideas of Black enterprise, the education of our children, the nursing of our sick and elderly, and moving forward based on our ability to progress as we were able to and willing to, and as the systems around us, outside of us, allowed. Today in 2022, we are looking at an old issue that has resurfaced again, and this is the one that has to do that goes to point number one of the 10-point program and platform of the parties, that we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our oppressed communities. We need the power, and that is the ability to identify and define the things that we can act on and participate in. Without that, then the community as such, the Black community as such, it does not exist. And this is what has happened over the years, because that homogeneous, that common collection of both color, ethnicity, and culture, we have been forced to move from our points of origin, our points where we came together as people sharing cultures, sharing histories, and being able to participate in building businesses, invest and have that participation in our schools, to participate in the electoral process. Those things now are being suppressed. They have been, at this point here now, they have, in the wake of the Trump administration, they have more overtly come under the legislation and under the jurisdiction of those who wish to see, and those who have long tried to undermine the rights and equity of Black and poor minorities here in this country. So for here, in terms of looking at the Black community in particular, as Dr. Ned pointed out, the businesses, the entertainment areas. Our schools have been remodeled and are subject to closure. All of the institutions, all of the cultural history benefacts and beneficiaries, all of those have been moved from the Oakland area and in the other urban areas around the country. And it points to one thing, in particular, the story where people believe that they come along and they're able to receive whatever the crumbs of appreciation that afforded economically or politically happen to be. It avoids an old story that goes to the frog in the water. Have one frog, which equates to a person. They're put in a pot of cold water, and the temperature, that is the conditions around them, slowly begin to increase, and the frog stays in that pot of water. When the water gets too hot, it's too late for that frog to move out of the conditions from which that was surrounding him. Same so with Black and poor people, because of the illusions of progress, because of the illusions that have been advertised and marketed to us. There is that sense of individual and group progress, and we continue to stay in that pot while it boils. On the other hand, put one frog in a pot of hot water. Put one of us in a pot of hot water. Immediately, through conditioning, through understanding, at whatever level, that frog, just like any other person who is aware, understands it's hot in this pot, and they're going to get out of there, move in an effort to survive and thrive. So those conditions exist now as they existed then. Getting comfortable with the things that have surrounded us and have become available to us. And too often we believe that is the name of progress. That is progress and forward moving. In fact, a handful of us as showcase instruments, yes, we progress and move forward, but the progression in terms of the community, in terms of being able for us to identify and define the phenomena which prevents us from building and having access to the institutions in our community. That is not the freedoms, ideally or practically, that we need collectively, not individual at the individual levels or small group levels, collectively at the mass level. And voter suppression in our communities today is one of those issues that we have to look at and address, because it's going to be forthcoming as we approach the this year's elections, and then the elections in 2024, the national elections, as well as the elections here locally here in California. And even though people may say, well, I vote and I don't have any reason to continue voting, or I only vote because there are candidates there that I like. It's not a question of like. Do we have candidates in position who can move and bring not only those around them, but also involve the community? Do we have candidates who can involve the community? This is supposed to be a participative democracy, participate, get involved in, not just voting in a person, but participating in how the decisions that they arrive at and with their body of people, how does that include the community? Particularly as we look at the Black community now, which we do not find. We do not find those tracts of Black and populations of Black people who are living together in a homogeneous demographic area. We have become dispersed. We have become dispersed neighborhoods. And that goes to benefit those who choose, those policymakers who redefine our voting districts so that the power of the Black community has been diminished. It has been diffused over the years. And only those who have sat in that pot of cold water as it boiled weren't aware of it. And at the same time, those knew, well, look, the population of our community has been diffused. We've been moved out of our home. We've been moved out of our apartment locations. We have become homeless. We have become unemployed and unemployable. Those people understand to some level that we are in a pot of hot water and we have to act on those conditions and those who created and continue those conditions. But the voter suppression is imminent and will be prolonged because of the fact that one, again, our communities, our original homogeneous communities have been dispersed, and we are no more than neighborhoods of Blacks, brown, and poor and minority communities that are displaced, and our voting impact has been wasted away due to the manipulation of those who make the policies here in America. One thing that we look at is that over the past decade, scholars have studied many ways in which certain state voting rules make participation disproportionately difficult for Americans of color, including strict voter ID laws, lines faced on election day, and other facets of our election system. Well, that election system that was put into place by policymakers. There's a large and growing pile of evidence that strict voter IDs disproportionately impact voters of color, primarily Black and brown, because of our geographic location and also our inability to make the communications in terms of when to register and be at the appropriate voter location sites. Now, one thing is that using county level turnout data around the country, researchers, they've found that the racial turnout gap grew when states enacted strict voter ID laws. No California ID, you can't vote. Or no driver's license, current driver's license, you can't vote. Researchers also look specifically at the turnaround and turnout of individuals in North Carolina without proper identification, and they found that the enactment of the law has reduced turnout. No identification, I can't vote. I go home, I don't vote. Those have been the issues. And when a voting tally comes in our communities, what East Oakland, West Oakland, why didn't the people who were aware, why didn't they turn out? Why didn't they vote? That was this is one stipulation that disempowers our community. The regulations have acted against our Black and poor people so that we cannot vote. We didn't qualify for the regulations that says we could vote. There are restrictions now on Sunday voting, such as those proposed last year in Georgia and Texas and Alabama, would fall disproportionately on voters of color, potential voters in the Black and poor communities. Voters of color consistently face longer lines on election day. Why? The limitation of voting polls, or because we are in an area with those who have priority and are more aware because they arrive first, and then we standing at the end of the line, just as we do in many employment situations. Even vote by mail options, mail-in ballots, don't completely level the playing field. Voters of color face more difficulties voting by mail also. Research shows that the mail ballots were rejected at much higher rates than those of white voters, especially during the previous 2020 elections in the southern states and in some of the other states that had been identified where Blacks and minorities, their ballots were not counted. The mail-in ballots were not counted. This goes to pointing out that as far as building the community infrastructure in the Black community, every effort that policymakers have proposed always have that undercut. They have always undercut the efforts of the collective, of the masses, to come together and be able to exert their will, to be able to develop that power to identify and define what is needed in their communities based on voting persons in. What businesses are needed, what needs to be corrected in their community, and the voting process is being undermined. It was undermined then, and there are new rules and new regulations, new laws today that subtly are taking those rights away from us that were written congressionally in the 1960s. But again, those of our people and other Black and poor communities who have been in that pot of water, and everything seems fair, temperatures and everything around them are appealing, satisfying. There's no problem. But those of us who know, those of us who are aware, we understand. As far as voting, the pot is hot. Something has to be done to counter those conditions. That's just one of the issues that impact the Black communities, Black and poor communities, and what can be used as a genesis and as continuation of what the original vision of the Black Panther Party was intended in terms of achieving our freedoms. We have to determine how we are going to define and identify what is needed in our communities and act, define, identify, and act on those conditions. At that point, at point number one, let me move to point number two and then brief. And after point number two, I believe we can open up for questions and discussions based on what Dr. Ned has said. And then after looking at the this video on the question of employment, unemployment, and unemployability as it relates to the Black community in particular and our communities of color in general. Craig, so we need Craig. John, we need Craig to pull up the video on
Definitely. Yeah, we'll get Craig to get it up. Is Kathleen doing a presentation as well?
Yes. And she's going to also add material on the employment issue. But either Catherine, you want to present now or after the documentary?
If you go after the documentary, we'll let her go after the documentary. We got time. Don't worry about time. I just wanted to make sure that what she present.
All right, let's go.
Presenting today.
Let's go then, everybody.
All right.
You want to support Rollerbark Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, let's talk about economics. Jobless report came out today, and we're always covering these things, of course, on this show, giving you a breakdown, because what happens when you watch these other networks, they talk about the unemployment numbers, but they never really talk about us Black people, and so we want to do that. Binga Ardelora, he is a senior economist for the Center for American Progress. He joins us right now. Doc, what's going on?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me.
All right, got new numbers. What does it say for Black folks?
So it's really sad. They're the only group that still have double-digit unemployment rates. And we're talking about 9 months into the pandemic, 10.3%, while it's 6.7% for national, down to about 6% for white people.
So Latinos are they're now in single digits, Asian Americans single digits, African Americans the only racial group that's in double digits.
Right. So for Latinos, it's 8.4%, for Asians, 6.7%, and again, African Americans, 10.3%. For Black men, it's 11.2%.
What about Black women, and what about Black youth?
So for Black women, it's 9%, and Black youth is about 17%. So again, 9% is still really high. That's what it was for white people back in the summer.
In terms of growth areas, or in terms of where jobs were actually produced, was it a matter of jobs being returned that we lost during the pandemic? Where was the job creation?
It was actually very little job creation. Only about 245,000 total jobs were created. And so some of that was in construction, as we've seen a lot of building going on. But one of the things is just that it's just all across the board, jobs are continue to be lost, and that we're not getting that recovery. And a lot of it is because there's just no fiscal policy that we see of.
But I thought Trump was doing so great with the Blacks.
No, he's not. And it's just, you mentioned earlier that being laughable. This is laughable. I mean, African Americans have been hammered, hit hard, and this has been going on throughout the whole pandemic. And the worst part is that the federal government can do something about it. And even the House has been trying to pass a lot of bills, and the Senate has done nothing. They just, You know, Mitch McConnell talked about it before as the Senate is the graveyard for House bills, but we're talking about a pandemic. We're talking about people losing food, rent, and struggling. And the actual bills that were passed in March that actually helped this economy out are all going to expire at the end of this month.
I'm gonna pull up something here, and Bill Spriggs. I'm gonna put this on my iPad in just a second. Bill Spriggs tweeted this out, and it's one of those things that also I think it puts into perspective for a lot of people who may not quite understand these things. And so, just so I'm gonna go to it in a second, and it's stunning when you think about it. So you've already laid out in terms of exactly what those numbers look like for African Americans. Go to my iPad, please. This is stunning here. This is what he said. The Black unemployment rate in November was 10.3%, still above the national unemployment rate for high school dropouts. That means that the overall, the Black unemployment rate in America is higher than it is for high school dropouts.
Yep. Bill is correct. And then one of the things that he's talked about, and I've talked about too and written about, is that our labor market is designed that way. It's designed to create these labor market disparities that African Americans are worse off. And this pandemic, throughout this 9 months, we've seen this play out automatically. And that's why we really have to have a lot of fiscal policy. We have to pass a lot of stuff to help people out, and not just white people, but help everyone out.
Again, not good as well, but it's good for us to have the information and know what our agenda should be moving forward. Benga Ajalori, we shall appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Sam Fullwood, I want to go to you. I mean, that last point there that Benga talked about and that Bill Spriggs talked about, the fact that the high school dropout unemployment rate is lower than the overall Black unemployment rate.
That's not news. I mean, that has been a fact of economic history for quite a while. And that's the disarming thing about it. That's the alarming thing about it, is that it's not really news. It is old news that just keeps coming back around and it really is gut-wrenching to know that progress is not being made in the way that it ought to be made on those unemployment figures. There is a consistent
difference. Is not right.
A consistent difference.
Go ahead.
Over time, that the even in good times, the Black unemployment rate lags almost by 2 to 1 to what it is for whites. And it seems that no matter what and how often you say it, it doesn't seem to crack the code of how we deal with our economics in our nation.
The reason, Mustafa, it is not news, but the reason I wanted to highlight that is because we have to be armed with the proper talking points and information when we're going up against and dealing with policymakers. And I think we have to, that's one of the things that we have to keep driving home, numbers like that, because when people say, oh, you know, it's this, that, and why are you complaining? No. When you put in that perspective to say, wait a minute, that means high school dropouts have a better chance of getting a job than the average Black person? Come on, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful, you know, because you can see it and you can feel it. And then you have to ask the question, what is it that we need to do about it? Well, folks voted. Hopefully we will have an administration that gets focused on policy that actually is going to make change inside the communities who have been unseen and unheard and who have been disinvested in. And we need to anchor this in the reality that even before COVID-19, the Black-white wealth gap under the Trump administration, everybody go out and Google it, do your research, was as large as in 1968. So if you are in what was supposed to be, you know, the healthiest, most vibrant economic set of actions, you know, the way that they frame it out, and that there still had this huge gap between Black wealth and white wealth, then that means that there's a new set of policies that are going to be necessary to address the disparities that exist. And folks don't want to do that hard work. They think just because a few Black folks got a job and were able to work. Yes, that's important, but that doesn't get at building wealth inside of communities. That takes policy that is laser focused and understands these historical sets of disparities that have been built and causing these dynamics to happen.
Greg, we talk about that particular point, but also the stat that is critically important. That is that a white high school graduate makes more than a Black college graduate. Again, you got to put these things in perspective. And I think that's where we challenge people. And when we have individuals, groups who are choosing to go to the White House or go to Congress, or go to state capitals, county commissioner court and city halls, or to go into corporate America, we have to be able to articulate that. So when people say, well, you know, you're sitting here, you bring these things up, I don't really think that's big of a deal. And we say, wait a minute, a white high school graduate on average can make more money than a Black college graduate? But I thought y'all keep telling us it's all about the college degree. Clearly it's not.
No, this is just white nationalism. As Sam said, it's been since the beginning. You know, my students are often shocked, the undergraduates, when we look up statistics on a study that was done 20 years ago almost now. And someone with a quote unquote Black sounding name who is filling an application has the same chance of getting an entry level job as a white person with a white man with a year and a half served time prison record. I mean, whiteness is there. But the thing that strikes me is the economy's doing just fine. Roland, as you said, commercial news entertainment media is reporting about the stock market. So the numbers that pop out to me and those commercials you ran are very important. First of all, parenthetically, the sister who said we need Purdue out and Oscar in, that's the kind of tone and temperament you need to take. I mean, with all due respect, President Obama, no joking. You know, just look into the camera and be serious. But that everybody hates Kelly piece, that too, very effective. But here's the number that strikes me. 1 trillion. What is 1 trillion? $1 trillion is how much 650 billionaires in this country have made since March. A 34% increase in those 650 billion, of which 47 are new billionaires. Now, Amazon is hiring, so it isn't just about jobs, it's about living wage. Jeff Bezos, you know how much money he was worth at the beginning of this? About $69.4 billion. Do you know how much he's worth now? 182.4. Elon Musk at Tesla started this pandemic at 24.6 billion. He is now at 126.2 billion. There are 7 million people facing eviction by the end of this year. And the voters of Maine, the white supremacist voters of Maine, like the rest of the white people who haven't voted for a Democratic president since Lyndon Johnson, put Susan Collins back in the Senate, and she's going to protect the interest of these billionaires. You want to understand why voting is important and why these next few weeks in Georgia are important? These people are in office to protect the billionaires. And the hillbillies don't have enough sense to realize that they have already been discarded. Now, we're going to stand in harm's way after that. We just need to run the numbers. The economy's doing just fine, bro. Because we are roadkill. And that's what the Senate is there for, to ensure that. It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win.
All right, then. We can cut it. Craig, thank you, Craig. I appreciate that.
Dr. Steve, now why did you want to play that at the end? My fuel is going and I got a lot of boiling points in me now. I'm starting to get angry over here.
John Henry, as I pointed out, these are the facts. Believe it or not. From what we said as members of the Black Panther Party and what we cried and screamed to the communities about in 1972, 50 years later, here we are. Dr. Ned, let's hear Assistant Catherine first, see what commentaries you have, Sister Catherine, and then I'll add some more commentary and let's open this up. And this is just point 2 of our 10-point programming platform. We have miles to go before we sleep. We have miles to go. Catherine, come on, my dear.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can
Got
hear
you. Got you.
All right. Well, see, 1972. So now I have an article I want to read. This is on housing, and hold on one second.
No, Catherine, we want to stay on employment for this topic.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Employment.
Yes.
Okay. So, well, well, I can speak from my experience.
No. Catherine, bring us what you have. Bring us what you have in terms of what we saw on the video and what you have documentary.
Okay, so that wasn't the subject that I chose to speak on.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
All right.
Mine
Catherine.
was housing and healthcare.
All right, then. So if John has time, if the audience has time, let me just bring a few things on the employment and unemployment and unemployable issue that did confront us historically and now, all based on point number 2. We want full employment for our people. So let's just look at something, and then John can open it up. John and Dr. Ned can open it up for the audience for discussion. So what we saw is that the situation of high unemployment for Black men is not new, as we heard the brothers say in their commentary. It has persisted for decades, and scholars, sociologists, economists, policymakers, and advocates have brought attention to various aspects of this challenge and put forth solutions, none of which, as we can attest to from the various urban centers, from the urban cities which we live, none of those have had any long-range, sustainable, and sustained impact on the qualitative condition of Black and poor people in terms of increasing their standard of living and their ability to produce and be able to provide for themselves and their families within this particular economy. Yet it is seemingly an intractable situation. In 2012, 3 years after the end of the recession, the Black male unemployment rate was in the double digits for every age category up to age 65, where many Black men have to retire or have retired. This was not the case for any other racial group except for Blacks. In 2010, half of working Black men were employed in 2 occupational clusters with the lowest average earnings. Average means where we're going to find a cluster, but when we look at the median numbers, where many of us were economically in relation to our peers, to the rest of us who were working, look, we were at the live or not live earning rate. The situation was the same in 2000 and in 1990. In addition to being disproportionately represented in low-wage occupations, Black men are much more likely than white men to be working part-time and to experience longer durations of unemployment. What we saw then in 72 and before, what we see in 2022, those conditions are still prevalent and have been exacerbated due to the failure of the American economic ideology to address the working poor, the working class, and those who have been classified as unemployable. That's just on the question of employment and employability, and those who are unemployable according to society, social delegation in terms where we are, in terms of can we be hired and can we be a part of an organization to earn them the profits that they are interested in. That's just point number 2 in terms of the 10-point program. Now, let's open this up, John, to the audience and to the rest of the viewers. Just on what Dr. Ned, Sister Catherine, and I have brought to the arena so far.
Well, I just want to say my blood is boiling because I got a real issue. You know, when we talk about these economics in this country, you know, it's a real fight, and you both put, you know, this hand in hand. And I think, you know, just watching some of the redistricting, some of the stuff that's taking place in our city, all across the Bay Area right now, redistricting is happening in all of the cities. The low level of civil engagement from Black folks is very disappointing. And I'm glad you all brought that up today, because if we don't start getting civically involved and we don't start getting the right folks that are advocating for the people, we are in trouble. We already in trouble right now. We are in a crisis in this country. Every area of livability or habitability, as they say, we are struggling. Okay, we talk about the job market, we talk about the financial market, the health market, any market that pertains to living in this country, Black folks is at the bottom of the barrel. And I don't know what it's going to take, Dr. McCutcheon and Steve, but we got some work that we got to do. We got to work in solidarity, start engaging our people, and we got to start moving. I've been saying this for the last several months. Right now, I don't know what's going on, but Black America seems to be in neutral. We're just not moving. There's no action. So I appreciate y'all saying that. We got to have some action. It's a lot of fussing. It's a lot of complaining about the different cultures and who is getting what. But again, we got to start moving in this country. Black folk cannot sit still, and we got to be careful with these people that we are putting in office or these parties. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to say it, and people hate when I say it, but Black folks right now, we got too much religion and we got too much Democratic Party. Okay, we got to start getting involved on a local level. We have to start moving our community. We can't sit back and wait. I am tired of organizations. I am tired of these leaders. Okay, these elected officials holding on to money for rainy day. We are in a rainy day in this country right now. So anybody out there that thinks it's okay to hold on to reserves and we got to hold this budget just in case we don't get funded, I'm telling you now, I'm disappointed. I'm not happy, and we're going to call you out because we have an issue in this country right now, and we need funds and resources getting to the people. So if you're an organization that has resources and funding and opportunities to get support and services to our community, we need community to start acting and moving our community forward. We don't got time to play politics right now. When we talk about health, and I want to hear from Catherine about health, right now the highest suicide rate of Black folks, young population, Black folks right now is the highest ever. Our young babies, 14, 13 years old to 24, are committing suicide at a highest rate ever in this country, okay? There is something going on, okay, with this pandemic, with what's going on when you talk about the jobs, the opportunity, when we talk about colleges. Our young babies in these communities are struggling, and we need folks to wake up and understand that we have a crisis happening, and we need everybody to start moving. We can't sit still. We can't look. We can't wait. We have to start moving our community and our folks forward. It's a lot of work, but we're going to need everybody to work together in solidarity to really move this forward. So I'm glad you all brought this up, but I am, you know, these conversations just, you know, infuriate me because, you know, the pandemic opened the eyes of not only America, but the world to understand that the disparities that really impact our communities. When we talk about health, when we talk about wealth, when we talk about all of the things, education, and this push across this country when we talk about equity and inclusion and diversity. I'm tired of these folks talking about it. Listen, I said I want to see some results. We got large corporations out here. We got all these organizations out here, and we're not seeing the equity and we're not seeing the inclusion, all this stuff from George Floyd. And this is why I tell Black folks about all this marching and all this stuff that we doing. Okay, we still don't have a police brutality bill passed. We still don't have the healthcare bill passed. It's a lot of things that's been going on for these last 2 years that still is not happening. And it seems more and more Black folks are sitting there waiting and praying for whatever, but it ain't happening. We got to start moving. We got to start uniting our community. We got to start pushing people forward. So that's where I'm at with it. But go ahead and jump in there. Community, come on. Let's
All
get
right,
it.
then. All right, John. Hey, thank you for regaling us on that. But Sador, can we hear from Catherine? Can you bring us into 2022 in terms of point number 6? We want completely free health care for all Black and oppressed people. Can you bring that to the table for us?
No. On it because I got a lot in my head about healthcare, particularly sickle cell anemia and diabetes that really run rampant in our Black communities, Black and poor communities in particular, and the healthcare system is really not good. I don't think they're doing a very good job because first of all, as you said, Dr. Steve, that when the unemployment rate is really high and we're not getting employed, we're not getting any jobs, I really believe the system, the way they work is they systematically try to get rid of us in a way that they set up these different programs that through time scatter and shatters us, and I found this article that we did, that the Black Panther Party did in 1973, and how, it really starts with our children. I'm serious, because the women give birth to children. And if they can control that, then they feel that, we can't do anything else with our 10-point platform and program that we have for the community. And, by the way, I just want to say that, Huey and Bobby, they started that. We had 66, there was 66 programs, which included all of what we needed in our different communities and all of what, they wanted to be able to and saw that we needed to have control in our communities. All of those 66 programs, it included everything, healthcare, clothing, the food program, on and on and on. So this article, what they did in 1973 now, the only 3 obstetricians, this says doctors defend sterilization, because they come up with these different ideas on how to control the population, especially not population, but how to control the Black population. And for women, it's sterilization or hysterectomies, and see, this is done on an individual level. So the teen or the young person really doesn't have the education on her body, about her body and or how it should function, or even the questions they need to ask when they go to the doctor. And the doctors know that. So this article reflects something like that. The only 3 obstetricians in Aiken County, South Carolina, have self-righteously performed sterilization surgery on the welfare mothers because of the doctor's social views. Doctors Clove H. Pierce, Niles A. Borup Jr., and Kenneth N. Owens sterilized 18 Medicaid welfare mothers following the fastest policy that pregnant women on welfare who have 3 children or more must agree to be sterilized before they would deliver their babies. Of the 18 mothers, 17 are Black and 10 are under 25 years of age. Aiken County Hospital Administrator J. Sam Nesbitt said, following disclosure of this policy, it is well within accepted standards. He said 17 of the 18 were unmarried, one had 12 children, and the rest had at least 3. However, reports quote George Anderson, Aiken's only Black lawyer and president of the Aiken Edgefield Community Action Commissions, as declaring that girls from 17 and up have been sterilized, and that even one girl at age 14 was given the operation. And you know, this is what goes on. You know, especially in this crisis that we're in, the decisions that these young people have to make do drive them to want to, you know, take things in their own hands and maybe end their life because they don't know where else to go, what to do. The plans that they had was to maybe go to school, get educated, get their degree, you know, meet somebody, raise a family, do some, you know, give back to the community. But for some reason, every time, this happens every time, it's like a cycle. You know, they grab our youth because they have to start with the youth. And they fill them with these things in their heads that we don't know that they have, you know, in their heads. You know, they think it's just something that has to be done. So we need to educate our community, bring them back home so that they'll know, you know, how to take care of themselves when they do go away, be it go to college or go somewhere where they've gotten a job in another state or something like that, you know? So this was 1973. So you can imagine what's going on right now, you know, with the birth control and all. You know, our children aren't getting fed in school neither. And, you know, housing issues the housing is a big issue. I won't, for the sake of time, talk about that because I had an article on that on point, I think it's, let's see what, point 4 of the 10-point platform and program. We want decent housing, you know, fit for all, for the decent housing for fit for the human beings, and not just some box or what do you call it? The ghetto. Ghettos are just you know, clusters of houses designated for lower income and the underserved community. So there's no equity. We can't even dream of equity because they have controlled us, and some of us don't know that, but controlled us to a point where we're in this cluster designated not to go any further. So that's all I have to say on that. That, you know, we need to just, you know, bring it back home and call ourselves together so that we can get our programs back up. We need those programs, especially with sickle cell anemia. You know, our communities, our people go to the hospital, and we can't get treated like we want to, because you know how we're looked at, you know how we're perceived, and it's hard to tell somebody that doesn't look like us. Not that we hate them or anything, but when we don't look like them, we experience that, we feel that, and each and one of us know that we have had that experience. So I speak the truth. You know, I'm lit. You know, living in truth, LIT, and I'm saying that to say that.
Thank you.
You know,
thank you, Catherine. Can Saturo, can you bring us home so that John can wind us down?
Yes, I can. You know, John, thank you so much. Again, what you said is so prevalent. We didn't get to one of the questions, and later, and another point we can, is college worth it? What is happening with our children going to college? But I want to say the connection of the historical past concerning Oakland mirrored the very plight that they had from the very beginning, and some real interesting points in terms of struggles of how things were created. Oakland, the Bay Area, being the first in struggle and resistance. And today, we weren't able to get to the other part that we talked about, the housing. I know Professor Steve had an unbelievable concept concerning why you can't build housing, affordable housing here in Oakland. So the idea is this. The first point is this knowledge, this information we're bringing is where we have to start with people. It's like when you give something, do you know why we're doing this? Well, let me give you a little tidbit. This is what is happening for us. Now I see. So now let's think about how we're going to survive together. Those small things is what we need to do without educating them, letting them know these things. And you necessarily don't have to give it to them all at once. They won't start that thinking process to understand why you're giving them food, why you're there concerned about their baby's education. And then they want to get involved because they realize unless we do, in 2022, we will not survive. And as I always like to say, ending in what Professor Steve always lets people know, we need, or people need, not to need. So first of all, revolution right now is giving that knowledge to the people. They're already ready to come together. Once they know there's another route, then that's when they start really looking at setting their feet down and making that change step by step, not in giant waves, but step by step. And that's what we did, and that's what we're going to do again. Thank you so much, John, for having us on today. And of course, down the line, we'll be working together again.
Oh man, this was very beautiful.
Bring us home, John. Do we have questions? Or what?
Well, we just had somebody comment about they have sickle cell. I know I want to connect Catherine on our team. This sickle cell, we had a conversation about it. I was one of you all to be a part of it, but we'll put another one together. As sickle cell is really impacting our community right now. And I know there's a number of hospitals across the Bay Area that's been receiving research funding. And we want to make sure that funding and support is getting to the pockets of the people. A lot of our folks who are dealing with sickle cell, we've had a lot of complaints about how when they're trying to get treatment, they're getting treated like addicts when they need pain management and things of that nature. So we got a lot of work that we have to do. But these concepts, these power 10 points and things of this nature, we got to get this moving in our community. Our community is going through it right now, and the uncertainty of what's going to take place, the increase of inflation and the GDP and the job numbers is really impacting our communities. I just went to the store the other day and I almost threw up seeing how much money it costs to get nothing. So I can only imagine. That'll
be $100 for nothing.
I mean, I only can imagine what our folks are dealing with. There's a lot of need, but we come from a prideful, very prideful race, and a lot of our people are suffering in silence. And that's why I think it's very important for the information and education awareness that you all bring to. But we have to open up our community. We have to get our community back talking and finding out. And I told all the young folks and all the elders that was at the event yesterday, right now our babies are suffering. I need all of the community folks out there, parents, okay? Wrap your arm around your young teenage kids. Don't just think they just upset and they not listening. We got to be a little bit aware of what's going on. We are dealing with so much in our community, and we don't want none of our young folks who are dealing with depression or anxiety to not have the support, the love from our community. And it's going to take us all. It might not be the parents. It might be an auntie. It might be a cousin. It might be a friend. It might be you out there. But be a listening ear to our young folks. Please don't just shun them on and say they got an attitude. They don't want to listen. Sometimes our young folks are dealing with stuff they need somebody to talk to. And it's going to take us all as a community, as a village of love, to have compassion and humility for the folks in our community, not just our young folks. We got elders of the community as well, who are in senior citizen homes, who feel alone, who don't feel like there's family to come check on them and support them. And this pandemic has really kept folks from engaging and socializing. And we have to check on our community. It's our job. It is our responsibility, not the system, not the government. It is the job of the people to love on each other. And that's what we're going to continue to do. But before we wrap up today, I want to give you all the opportunity to give any parting words to community, anything you want to say before we close out today's segment.
Stay strong. Stay strong. We're here. We have to stay strong for each other.
Isn't that right, Craig? As a Rainbow Coalition member concerned so much about the community?
That's right. Yeah. By the way, I'm Craig, John, for having us and supporting this. So I work with the original Panthers with BPP-ALN. We're taking a page out of the Rainbow Coalition, keeping things real in the East Bay. We run streetwear and artwork all through, celebrating the Panthers' history. All our imagery and everything we use, visual language, is all checked in through the Panthers. We got a lot of community work going on. A lot of projects coming up. We got the Lumpin' 7-inch reissue. We got a virtual tour in Oakland. We got Professor Steve's book. We Were Free for a While coming out soon, so check that out. That'll be available everywhere. We previously had a project with Shepard Fairey where we did a couple prints of Bobby Seale, representative of the 55th anniversary. So always great stuff going on at AP to the P Collective and bppaln.org. So just want to say thank you. And you could hear these amazing stories and history that we've heard today. And this stuff is so important, and these messages have to get out there to the community. So we're putting our brains together, hitting the streets, and trying to get the word out there. So just want to say thank you for this platform. This is awesome.
Oh, that was beautiful, Craig. And I like the Rainbow Coalition concept, right?
Yeah.
This is my thing that I always say to people.
The original.
Right. What I want to tell them is this, and I'm all for all folks, because I'm all about the people, right? Yeah. But what I tell people is, when we talk about solidarity, okay, all communities, we have to come together on all issues 365 days of the year. The Rainbow Coalition was about that, but we have people in our community, different cultures, who only want to show up when their culture's impacted, okay? And I don't agree with that. Yeah. You got to show up for the Black folks. You got to show up for the Latin folks. You got to show up for everybody. When we talk about people issues, when we talk about community issues, you got to show up for everybody. So I'm not into that. Yeah. One side, these folks want to come on and cry and complain about what's happening to them. When we talk about solidarity, when you talk about Rainbow Coalition, to me, it's all people. We all ride together for all issues, all concerns in our community, because it's everybody's issue. And that's just all I want to say about that. But before we go, y'all make sure y'all get on the Black Panther Party website. Make sure y'all get some of that gear and support the work that they're doing, because at the end of the day, it takes us all. We could build this. We can invest in each other. We could build up our communities. This party has shown over the years, if we do the things, right? And this is what I tell the folks right now. Everybody want to throw their hands up and quit. If we do our part as community folks, each one of us, elders, young folks, community leaders, community organizations, elected officials, if we all could come together and lead by example, we can push the change in this country. It's not too late. I think some people just think it's over. They throwing their hands up. The pandemic is taking everybody down. But I really believe if we all start to lead by example and we all start to work together, we could drive that change. I think we could do it, community. We got to do it. We got to do it. Go ahead, Dr. Santoro.
Yeah, I was just going to say, John, pick your district and your time. We're going to get you elected. You'll be a first of a coalition slate. But
I can't do it. I told him. I'm not clean enough for politics. Everybody keeps I don't want to run for office. I got too many personal problems.
But you know what? Going back to what Professor Steve and closing out, when you elect the people, you don't have to go begging to the ones that ain't gonna do nothing for you anyway, and that is the problem right now. So find people in the community who are interested. We'll get them in. But again, thank you so much. Again, hopefully we'll schedule something else down the line that's relevant. Maybe continue on this. But John, you two, both sides of the conversation is also part of our network, and our purpose is to also make this network the place that everybody comes to. Move over, Rowan. Get out the way, because here we come. On that note, I just want to close out. Thank you so much. All power to the people, everyone. Let's continue what we have to do. Right on, Professor Steve. Beautiful job. Sister Catherine, beautiful job. John, as always, you know what you do. And Craig, thank you so much. Beautiful job. All right. We'll see everybody next time.
All right.
Dr. McCutcheon.
All right.
I need a book, Dr. McCutcheon. I need a signed autograph book. I'm gonna come get it from you.
When they're ready, Craig will let me know. Craig and Parita will let me know. And then from there, it'll be on the website. It'll be on their website. And you can make the contacts there. But if you want anything up close and personal, then we got to be up close and personal.
That's right.
All right, we'll be moving around.
But anyway, John, you tell your audience, your staff, those around you, the great job that you're doing in your presentations, that we appreciate it. We applaud your efforts. We're grateful to be a part of the communications, and tell all of them, stay hungry. Just stay hungry.
That's right. Well, it's a lot of hungry people out here because we know the times we are in are challenging, but we're going to feed the people. That's what we're going to do here at both sides of the conversation. We're going to continue to feed them with information. We're going to feed them with love. We're going to feed them with food, and we just going to keep doing the work for the people. So just want to say thank you all for tuning in and for community watching. This has been a great presentation of education, awareness, and information. Where we at then and where we at now doesn't look like the meter moved too much, but we got work to do. We got work to do, and it's going to take us all. So thank you all for tuning in. Our next segment will be coming back on this Tuesday for another Hidden Gem segment where we will continue to highlight our Black and brown businesses, as well as our community leaders and organizations that are doing positive things to impact our community. And next Thursday, we will have a wellness presentation by the Rafiki Coalition, as we will continue on this platform all year long to talk about health and wealth, as we talk about our mental health, our physical health, and we're going to talk about that money that we talk about, building that economical power so that we can move our community forward, so that we can be the employers to hire our people to advance our community. So we're going to keep doing that. We got a lot of events that are coming up next week. You all will see me moving around between San Francisco, Oakland. We got the Joy Parade. We got birthday party. We got all kind of stuff going on that we're going to be representing and supporting our community. So find out where we'll be at. I'll be in Sacramento, and we'll be doing the Survivor March, rallying with our sister Denise over at SF Black Wall Street. We have a lot of people that's out here doing the work. We're fighting for justice. We're trying to get our incarcerated brothers and sisters home. We're trying to get them back into the community, re-entry the right way, and it's going to take us all. It's a lot of work, but we are excited about the things that we're going to be doing. So please tune in, follow us, check out our newsletter so you all can keep up with the amazing things that we're going to be doing. We have some things coming up, and I'm just excited about it. So I know if I'm excited, you should get excited, because every time we move, y'all know we move in love and unity, compassion, and empathy for our people. All power to the people. Thank you all for tuning in today. We'll see y'all on Tuesday. Have a blessed evening, everybody, and have a blessed one. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.